regular meeting to order. Time now is 7:06. Requirements of the Sunshine Law. This meeting was advertised in the Burlington County Times on January 5th, 2017. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and while we work through, I believe we worked through it already, our technical difficulties, I'd like to welcome everyone out this evening, and thank you for being here. A moment of silence. And at this time, roll call, please.
Committeeman Lopez.
Present.
Committeewoman Smith-Hartman. Committeewoman Talisa. Present. Committeeman Wisniewski.
Here.
Mayor Daniels.
Here. Thank you. Approve tonight's agenda, May 1st, 2017.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, roll call.
Lopez.
Yes.
Talisa.
Yes.
Wisniewski.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes. I'd like to move the regular meeting minutes of 4/17/2017.
Motion.
Got a second? Okay. Any discussion? There being none, roll call.
Lopez.
Yes.
Talisa.
Yes.
Wisniewski.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes. I'd like to move the closed session minute meetings of April 17, 2017.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Lopez.
Yes.
Talisa.
Yes.
Wisniewski.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes. Monthly reports and communications are posted on the bulletin board outside in the foyer. Scheduled appointments this evening, there are none. At this time, I would like to open the meeting to the public for comment on agenda items. We're open. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Gary Barbarian, 138 Winstead. Mayor and committee, it's agenda item number 16, ordinances 3-2017. In the documentation provided, the ordinance is quoted here in the amount of $465,000. And in the meeting packet that we received, looks to me, I think it's on page 16 of that long document. Sorry, page maybe 15. Might be 15 or 16. It says Township of West Hampton, New Jersey, and then there's block text about the bond ordinance. Just a ministerial point, in the preamble, there is a mention of the local bond law. I just think it might be easier if you also include a reference to the actual citation, maybe as a parenthetical, only because you do reference the citation in other sections of this specific ordinance. I can give you the citation if you need it, otherwise you can look up yourself, but it's New Jersey Statute 40, big letter A, :2-1. The reason I mention that is there's 67 sections to that statute, so just to make it easier and obviously more transparent for the public, they can easily. It's up to you.
Get that specifics that I'm going to talk to you tomorrow anyway, so I'll let you know.
Okay, and then the reason I mentioned the $465,000 figure, when I'm scrolling to page 16, so it would be page 2 of that document, I'm looking at section 7, and it says purpose/improvement ABCD, and the estimated total cost. There's 4 columns there. But when I do the arithmetic, Mayor and committee, I get a different sum for the total. I get $320,000. So when you add 35,000, 192, 75,000, 18,000, I got 320,000. And I got different sums in the down payment column and the amount of obligations column. I got different sums every time I added the numbers. So I don't know if it's just, if there's other allocations that were supposed to be included and were omitted, or is it, am I not doing the math right?
You're right, the bond attorney made a mistake there, because it should be, C should be 18,000, and D is a different number. I think it's 220. Top of my head, does that add up to,
I don't know. I'm just reading when I did the math, but.
Looks like we need to hire you as our bond.
Yeah, you want a job?
No. Thank you.
Yep, that's
Okay.
what it is, and it comes out as 465. So it's A is 35,000, is the full estimated total amount, B is 192, C is 18,000, and D is 220,000. The road construction needs to be a little bit more than 18,000, don't you think?
Yeah, and then the down payments too, Maria.
Down payments are always 5% of the amount, so that's correct, that the down payments would therefore change accordingly. Down payments are 5%, the amount of the obligation is the total cost minus the down payment is the amount of obligation.
Okay, so when those numbers are,
Yeah.
okay. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting that up.
Ms. Berkeley, I'm sorry. I was actually doing some quick math up here.
Nancy Berkeley, Olive Street, Rancocas. This is on 15D, please.
Okay?
I was curious why the dwelling needed to be demolished.
What, the house on Blue Jay Lane?
Yes.
Okay, from what I understand, and I'll let the administrator explain that, but it was a house that sorely was in need of demolition, and there was a two-part that, from an open space perspective, we had to demolish it, but I'll let the...
I'll jump in. Well, it's pre-tease me in my tenure here, but we purchased that land, I believe, in 2015. I think it was spring of 2015. We purchased 21 Blue Jay Hill. We did it, we purchased it in conjunction with Green Acres.
Mm-hmm.
And Green Acres is withholding some of the money that they're supposed to give us on the condition that the title and deed be filed, which Mr. Romero is taking care of, and that the building be demolished, the well decommissioned, and the septic tank decommissioned as well. And this needs to be accomplished by June 15th, otherwise we don't get our share of the remaining response. We bought it open space in mind.
I was just curious, why does Green Acres care whether the house is there? Because if I remember correctly, before we bought it, people were living there and paying about $4,000 a year in taxes. So it had to be at least inhabitable.
They were living there, and there was a fire, and now it's in really pretty bad condition.
Yeah.
I don't know why, I
Just
can
repair.
go back in time and tell you, unfortunately, I'm not John Ryan and the different committee, why it was purchased, but we purchased it, and now the condition, everything there, we did the tax on the property, and now we have to demolish it in order to get our reimbursement from the Green Acres.
It just seems like a lot of money. And now we're going to
We
have,
did a lot of money. We did a bid, and we'll talk about it, but that was a low bid. We did an asbestos report, asbestos siding. There's some lead paint around the windows. There's also a little tank in the closet. Thus, we dispose of those environmentally in a safe, sound way.
I know you weren't here. Did any of the committee members, would you have known that we had to spend all this money to demolish it when we bought the property? Was that
I would not
foresee?
have been aware. Yeah, I wouldn't have known.
Because then maybe you would have reconsidered buying it if you knew it would cost all this money.
Well, yeah, because it would have been an added cost that we would have had to consider with the purchase price.
I don't want to speak out of school with the mayor's permission. I expressed a similar concern when this came on the agenda item. Naturally, I wasn't serving on the committee when this house was purchased. Based on the answers I've received of why the house was purchased, I believe it's associated with Timbuktu, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, right.
Yeah, Maria wouldn't have purchased.
But it was.
So
It was.
the intention of the house was Timbuktu related. I'm assuming the prior committee, when they purchased the house, I think the intention would have been to knock down the house and keep the land as open space, since we're using open space funds to cover the demolition. So I wasn't here, But I share the same concern about, us purchasing properties.
So it's not even considered a historic house that would be historically Timbuktu?
No,
Okay.
no.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Ms. Berkeley. Any other open public, Ms. Gilligan?
Gilligan Scott, 104 Second Street. It's regarding Resolution 76-17 and 77-17. Maybe when you get to those, you could explain to the public how these two resolutions work together, reading the budget by title only. And then, will you be making any comments about the budget?
Yes,
And will there be any?
it's a public hearing, so yeah.
Okay, so there'll be opportunity
And I
for
thought-
questions as well.
Yes, sir.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Close the public comment. Moving right along, continued agenda items, none. Old business, we have proposed West Hampton Township Spring Cleanup Day, which will be this Saturday, May 6th, 2017. From those of you who were here may have remembered that Kingdom Church came to us and offered to take on some projects in town. It's considered their church volunteer day, and they asked the Township of West Hampton, could they be a partner in doing something. We have identified, I believe, one or 5 areas in town that could use some sprucing up and some enhancements, and that information has been communicated to them. I know that Committeewoman Talicia had some concerns that were pursuant to issues of insurance. They have provided us with their certificate of insurance, and we are a green light from that perspective.
Yes, I just want to say how it's extremely important to protect the residents in the township when it comes to any liability. So that's why we reached out to Kingdom Church to make sure that they had a certificate of insurance. And what that means is they put the Township of West Hampton on their policy, and it reads, West Hampton Township is listed as an additional insured in reference to volunteer cleanup work on May 6th at Springside Meadows Neighborhood Complex. And this protects us. If there are any kind of injuries, there's insurance to cover the injuries. What I would, and I think I've mentioned this before, is to make sure that we have a list of the volunteers, so we kind of have like an idea of how many are going to be, helping out.
If I can, Mr. Mayor, a resident reached out, Jess Marco, I believe she lives in Arc Woods. She reached out expressing concerns about, there's been a lot of signs, lawn signs being placed and then not picked up after, whether it's a paint job, a landscaping job, or people advertising. I don't know if it's too late to put that on the radar or if they have enough crew in the Kingdom Church. Mrs. DeMarco states that 541 and Wood Lane Road, and also along Wood Lane Road, corner of Irick and Wood Lane, Irick and Rancocas, the bypass in Rancocas, and she, her concern is it looks blighted, it looks awful, and then she goes further as saying maybe we should consider a permitting process for anyone who wants to put temporary signs. I told her, the committee will be happy to look into that, but I just wanted to put those cross-sections in your radar if there's enough manpower for it.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding you. If I can use some of the Kingdom Church volunteers to pick up any outdated temporary signs? Sure.
Two things on that. One is, don't we have an ordinance that if someone puts up something, it has to be a particular size,
Yeah.
and there's so many days that it can stay up?
We do.
So, one, like from a compliance standpoint, how will we know if we take someone's sign down that, in fact, it's been there, either has exceeded the time limit or not? And then two, some of those signs on roadways, would we run into any problems of safety?
I'm guessing just wear and tear. You can, if the sign's pretty worn and the color's faded and it looks bad, I guess it's been out there for a while. But I agree with you. How do you know which sign is which? But I'm just passing along the...
No, it's good.
If it's somebody's advertisement on the side of the road, it's probably not permitted at all. I'm guessing they
Right.
just put it there.
And Mike
really.
usually
Like
removes them.
Yeah.
when they leave.
Yeah, you can just remove those.
But they've been there for quite some time on 541 and Woodley Road, and it really does look hideous.
Yeah.
And I think on Beverly Van Cookus Road and the bypass, there's lots of signs there too. It's terrible.
Yeah, that's something where if you have the manpower, you can just pull them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along. Let's, whether hold this on the new business. Okay, moving right along to new business, the Baroque GIF 25th anniversary luncheon. Does anyone else have any additional information on that?
The letter is attached to your
Right.
proposal. They're giving us $1,200 to use for a luncheon for our employees as a way of thanking us for using their joint insurance fund. If you guys have any ideas how you want to spend that, might be a nice thing to do a summer barbecue for the employees or a holiday luncheon.
No, I think that, like a picnic
So
or
if you guys want to
barbecue,
give me your
because we
feedback
talked
on
about
that,
that.
email or whatever, I
A
welcome your feedback.
picnic or barbecue.
With $1,200, you can invite families too.
Excuse me, I don't hear well.
With $1,200, I would think you should be able to invite families too.
I'll look at and ask them if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, under new business, and while I could save it for the comments, moving right along, I understand because we have budget tonight, but I think with exception, there's two items that I would like to go ahead on and cover. One is last week or 2 weeks ago, niche.com, NICHE.com, released its rankings of great communities to live in New Jersey, and I'm proud to present officially at our meeting that West Hampton Township for the second straight year was denoted as one of the 100 best communities to live in, receiving an A rating. It's important to advance that and understand that, especially from the perspective that for last year, I believe our ranking was at 88. This year, our ranking came down to 76, right behind Evesham Township, a community that is 3-4 times size of West Hampton Township. Last year, we were noted as 88, right behind Evesham Township, and 25th to buy a home, and somewhere in the 80s in terms of raising a family. As I stated last year, when you have notable achievements like that, I think that they're important to bring up simply because teamwork makes the dream work. No one individual or entity make that happen. It's everyone working together. And moving right along, it is with with an honor, if you will, that our chief, Chief Joe Otto, was able to share with me today. Chief, do you want to read this, or you sure? Okay, and I thank you. But Lieutenant Rogers received a letter from the State of New Jersey Office of the Attorney General, Department of Law and Public Safety, and it was directly from the Attorney General, Christopher S. Perino, and it reads as follows. Are a featured recipient of the Attorney General's Award for Outstanding Community Policing. Dear Lieutenant Rogers, it is my pleasure to inform you that your agency has been selected as a featured recipient of the Attorney General's Award for Outstanding Community Policing. The purpose of this award is to recognize and applaud community engagement efforts as well as commitment and dedication to the public you serve. To celebrate this accomplishment, please join your fellow law enforcement officers and me at the award ceremony, which will be held on May 22nd at 10:30 a.m. at the Livingston Student Center located 84 Kilmer Avenue, Piscataway, New Jersey. In addition to this, and it's not in this letter, but Lieutenant Rogers will be one, I think, of only 4 in the entire state of New Jersey that will be part of a distinguished panel of experts on best policy and community policing. So please, ladies and gentlemen in committee, join me in saluting our police department. I think that when we look around the country, and just in our own local community, that we clearly understand the importance of having a strong and robust community policing. Policy Chief, I commend and laud you from a visionary perspective and allowing for the proper necessary climate and culture within your department for our men and women, quite frankly, to just think outside of the box. So thank you for that, and to the extent that I can be, I'll be there with you guys, and that's just great for this community. Moving right along, resolutions. Resolution 7517, payment of vouchers. This resolution approves the payment of bills through tonight. What say you?
A motion?
Can I give a second? Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lopez?
Yes.
Smith Hartman?
Yes.
Talisa?
Yes.
Wisniewski?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes. Resolution 76-17, budget, read by title only. This resolution permits the 2017 municipal budget to be read by title only at the time of the public hearing.
So
Motion?
moved.
Or second?
Okay. Discussion or explanation. Maria, do we have, I know it's statutorily pursuant to 40A : and I looked it up last night, but the exact citation I don't have, but
I think
Mr. Solicitor.
it's 48, Chapter 4.
Yes, and why you have to read the budget by title only?
Right.
It's simply a resolution that you have to attach to it once you submit it up to the state. It's really just procedural.
Perfunctory.
So you read it by title only, and then your next resolution is going to open the public hearing on the budget itself. And that's what you speak about, and the public gets to speak about it.
Because if we had to read it aloud, we might be here till 2 in the morning.
Understood.
That wouldn't sit well with me.
And I thank you. Roll call.
Lopez?
Yes.
Smith Hartman?
Yes.
Talisa?
Yes.
Wisniewski?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes. Resolution 77-17, is public hearing of the 2017 municipal budget. This resolution approves the adoption of the municipal budget. The total budget for 2017 is in the amount of $10,857,212, which reflects a stable tax rate of 0.563. There is no local purpose tax increase.
Motion?
Second?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
open to the public.
Public hearing.
Okay.
I'll distribute this today and get down here.
While she's doing that, Maria, will that be the same thing
Yes.
that we have here? Okay. All right.
Did they get a chance to look at it?
No, they didn't.
No. Isn't it done? It should. Yeah.
As we're passing out the budget, and you have an opportunity to look at it, I would like to note a few things. The total budget for 2017 is $10,857,212, which roughly is a decrease of $16,867 from 2017. I wanted to bring this up simply because this was formally reported as an increase rather than a decrease, because when starting from last year's budget statement, we unintentionally used an outdated version. The fact of the matter is this year's budget is slightly less than the last year's, and we are basically staying flat with the amount of revenues we expect as well as with the amount we are expending. We have just slightly rearranged the categories, if you will. Moving right along, I would also like to point out that the capital budget of $465,000, and I had did some of the math pursuant to the numbers that were given. I got $465 with $23,250 financed from the 2017 budget as a down payment. The capital budget is reflected in the bond ordinance that we will have a second reading on tonight. The 5% down payment that is required for bonds is financed from this budget that we are in fact having a hearing on tonight. The tax rate remains flat at 0.563 per $100 of assessed value, and the average home that is in West Hampton is assessed at $240,900. This is down $1,371 from last year. Starting budget position better than in prior years as more revenues were received than anticipated due to construction permits, registration of vacant properties, and lower personal expenses. You know, one of the things that I would like to point out is that this didn't happen by accident or necessarily in the vacuum. It was the proactiveness of this committee, the staff of people. One of the things that I would like to point out is the fact that we have someone who's doing code enforcement to make sure that a lot of the empty properties that we have out there are aptly and properly registered. It was even brought to our attention that our fees that at the time that we were receiving from some of these properties were on the far end of low side. If you remember last year, we passed an ordinance to increase those fees from $500 to, I believe, $2,000, and chiefly those were bank-owned properties and where the banks were just not registering, A, or B, letting the properties go run down. I take great pride in the fact that this body, while it was not easy, worked tirelessly to get the Camuto Group to come online. While we can discuss it and quite frankly, debate the pros and cons of Camuto coming into our community by way of a new and larger building as they are already here, one of the things that it did was provide us with some permitting fees that helped with this budget greatly. And, you know, from a governance standpoint, you either do it one of two ways in our taxpayers' pockets, or we do it by bringing ratables in town. The 2017 budget does not defer any local school taxes to make this budget stay flat. And I think that, well, you know, you could easily say that that's commendable and that's what good governance should be doing anyway. You know that there were years where it was really tough to make ends meet, and we had to do that. Changes in the 27 budget would include health care costs, an increase of $14,617. Pension cost was an increase of $24,000, and we hired a part-time administrative employee to provide for greater service coverage and to provide staff time for additional cross-training. If you have not met her yet, please, when you stop up to the municipal building, her name is Monique, and she is at the front desk. The police department were not afforded any new vehicles in 2016. The 2017 budget allows for one new vehicle. Just a quick commercial on that I do know that one or two, if not three, of the vehicles that we have in the police department are in constant need of repair. They were the Chargers that we had purchased some years ago. I know across the continuum and across the country, police departments are having some troubles with Chargers. That might be something that we may have to look at sooner as opposed to later. I tell you, and it's not a commercial for, who makes Crown Victoria? The Fords, but those, I still see those boats still floating around in some police departments, if nothing else, but by way of a dare vehicle. Some of the old technology still works well. So that's something that I think it bears mentioning. There was a new line item added within our budget this year, Community and Cultural Affairs. This line item has been budgeted for $21,750. It will cover, amongst other things, holiday events that were previously paid out of the Recreation Trust, and Recreation has intended to be a self-financed entity, and events such as the Fall Festival, Santa Breakfast, Egg Hunt, and the like are community events which have not completely self-financed and are more appropriately part of the township. This line item will also cover other events such as the motivational speaker we've had for the township employees and things like chairs for the seniors. And the deputy mayor had talked about to the extent that those chairs were not only hard, but some of them were in ill repair and possibly presented a danger to the seniors. Let's see here. The 2017 budget continues previous best practices by way of debt service being paid down. In 2016, bond anticipatory notes were wrapped into a single bond taking advantage of low interest rates at the time. The 2017 budget includes the first of 10 principal payments for the bond anticipatory notes that were used to fund last year's capital budget. Legally, we are not required to start paying these until the third year, but we chose to start this right away. So I would like to thank Maria, I'd like to thank Committeeman Wisniewski. I know myself, we had some early conversations, and the rest of the committee was definitely on board that if we could find a way to begin paying sooner as opposed to later, it just means that we finish sooner. The SAFER grant currently pays the salaries of 3 of our firefighters. However, the grant expires at the end of 2017. This budget starts to prepare for us for that eventuality. And the rest are the committee will be considering an ordinance in the upcoming weeks to have a referendum on a general election ballot to extend the 2-cent annual levy for open space that is expiring in 2019. Light items that are not under township control: pension payments, health care costs, trash collection, insurance, fire hydrant service, and fuel, which is set by the economy. At this point, before I actually open it to the public, well, no, let me do this. Does any committee member have anything that they want to say? Obviously, I cut this short because we could be here all night with this. I think that it goes without saying that we did yeoman's work over the preceding weeks, and I think we came out with the best budget that we could anticipate under a certain set of circumstances. It should be also noted that while this budget is something I think to laud, that we need to also continue to apply necessary due diligence by way of smart growth, economic development that looks towards where we will be in 2018 in terms of the budget. So, colleagues, do you have anything that you might want to add at this time, or want to listen to the...
Listen to the public.
Okay. All right. Open for the public. Sir, I could, just your name.
And address.
445 West Country Club Drive. My first question is concerning the budget. I'm trying to come up to speed as to everything that's happening in the township. I'm quite sure it's a lot, but some of the things I've heard in the past couple of weeks, there's a pending lawsuit against the township by 5 employees, is that correct?
Well, yeah, let's see how I can first put that. Okay. And to answer your question, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, he's great, come get it.
Don't tell me they're dead. I don't think there's any more to do.
Oh, no. I could hear him. You can have this one. I don't know if it stretches that far. I can hear you, and I'm deaf, so it works out.
One of my concerns is, if this plaintiff wins this lawsuit, he prevails, how is that going to affect the budget and he is a taxpayer? Are we going to have to cover those costs?
You know what I will do is defer to our solicitor, since I am a named plaintiff, in that I would at this time defer all comments to our solicitor.
Yeah, and I'll make it brief. So some of the people up there are named plaintiffs, so they won't speak about it, especially since it's the process right now. There's an insurance attorney that's been assigned to represent committee and the committee members. The insurance attorney is assigned because the township has insurance to cover situations like this. Ultimately, in a worst-case scenario where you bring up, if the plaintiff proceeds to a trial and is successful, depending on how that award was handed out by a judge, a portion of that, or a good portion, hopefully would be covered by insurance. That's why insurance assigns an attorney to represent these individuals. Also, if they come to some settlement agreement, a portion of that would be covered by insurance as well. There is a deductible that the township would be responsible for in either situation, a settlement or a verdict, but a good portion of it would be covered by insurance.
Is there any chance, or is it too late for all this to be kind of like one of those kiss and makeup kind of things and then going back on board to avoid these additional costs? Because it's eventually going to roll down to us as taxpayers.
I can answer for committee. I mean, the committee didn't bring the action. It was brought by the individual, so, I mean, it would be up to him to roll it back at this point.
One other question. The township website and Facebook page, who runs it? Or who handles those two?
I can speak to that if you like.
As administrator, I basically run the website, and just recently, we're having a change of control where I will be most likely to be me overseeing the social media sites as well. But we are in transition, and we are going to be in discussions on whether or not, how we're going to handle that going forward.
I guess that's all I have for now.
Okay.
Maybe one day you guys can bring me up to speed as to everything that's going on in the township, because I really like to get involved.
Sure. Mr. Smith, I mean, outside of the, I guess, the canons of what I can and cannot say pursuant to the lawsuit, but outside of that, I know that we all are, and most days I am up here, so you let me know. I'll be here. I have office hours, and whatever we can bring you up to speed with, I'm more than willing to do so.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Barkley.
I have a couple of questions about the budget before. I think terms were used. I think it's more appropriate to say that it was a reduction in force rather than a firing, and that brings up a different attitude towards that.
Can everybody hear you, Nancy? Can everybody back there hear Ms. Berkeley? You can hear her?
What Ms. Berkeley just stated was pursuant to Mr. Smith's question, and did you hear that, Mr. Solicitor?
Yes.
Can you restate? I don't want to restate because someone may get it wrong that I said something, so can you restate what Ms. Berkeley
Yeah,
just
what
said?
Ms. Berkeley said was that perhaps she was correcting the record, that it was a reduction in force as opposed to a termination.
Okay, thank you.
Back to the budget. Last year, I remember you saying something about you had pushed a number as far as we go with schools and keeping the money to cover schools that people didn't do, and yet I see that now you're reserving 1% less. Am I getting things mixed up?
Yeah,
We're not deferring any school taxes. We had room, but we could have deferred additional taxes. I think we could have deferred $825,000, if I remember off the top of my head. We could have deferred. That is, you guys all pay your taxes, and then we have a period of time before we have to pay the school. So we could have used some of that money toward budget revenues, but then it messes up your cash flow, and you don't really want to do that. And we were able to do this budget without deferring any additional school taxes.
So the reserve for taxes is different.
That's different. That's when you have a reserve in case someone doesn't pay their taxes, you have that money. But we have a really fantastic collection rate. Our tax collector does a great job, and so we made that a little smaller this year because I think she collected like 98.3%.
That's huge.
Which is just really extraordinary.
Yep.
Good job, residents.
Next question. Since now we have the apartments up and running, and Mr. Dolan has been building and building and building, the valuation for our township, how much did that increase over last year to this year?
I'm not the tax assessor, so I don't want to misspeak, but I can tell you that the mayor reported, which is on page 1, is that the average assessed home actually fell a little bit this year.
We added homes, we added apartments, we added buildings,
You added Project Freedom, but
right? And did we add a warehouse or two?
just a little one. that one is not occupied yet, so I can't speak for the assessed value, but,
I can just say, in your meeting packets, we had received a letter from the Rancocas, well, from the State Department of Education, and the State Department of Education is listing West Hampton's equal value for the municipality at $1,218,099,564. What it does not do is list what was the prior year. So this is good for fiscal year 2017, 2018. And I'll repeat the number again for those that are listening or noting the number. The township valuation is $1,218,099,564.
and I do have those numbers in my office, I just don't have them here.
Last question, and it applies to that page.
Mhm.
And this is one of my soapbox. I've been complaining about this for years. If you look at that, you will see that Mount Holly has
Mhm.
only 7 less students than we do at the high school.
Mhm.
Yet we pay twice as much in taxes to RV than Mount Holly does.
Yep.
And it just seems awfully unfair.
I agree.
Because we have been responsible in adding commercials and the way we build things, we get bumped and have to pay more, and Mount Holly gets to pay a lot less. And I don't think we should pay twice as much for our students who go to the high school and get the same education as Mount Holly and some of these other places. Now, in schools, and Andre, you might know more about this being on the school board, there's 2 ways of calculating tuition. One way is by the equal valuation,
Mhm.
which includes how much commercial you have. The other way is based on the number of students.
Mhm.
And when I asked RV, they said that it would have to come from the municipalities to agree to change from the valuation to the number of students.
Mhm.
And so every time we improve by adding more to our valuation of our school, we're giving everyone else less money they have to pay for their students.
Absolutely right.
And it just seems
Unfair.
You're right.
It's not your budget, it's not your fault, but maybe a little pressure, and maybe if you had a meeting of the mayors or the meeting of people, and you got together and said, look, we've got to work out some kind of compromise because we're getting killed here.
Yep.
And I can see when Mr. Dolan finishes his 400 billion square feet new building, we're going to be giving Mount Holly more money so they can lower their taxes.
Mhm. You're absolutely right.
Good point.
7 students is, we should be paying the same amount.
You're right.
You're right.
That makes the second issue that we
Fix
may
that.
need to meet with. I said, Ms. Berkeley, that makes maybe the second issue that we may need to meet with the surrounding mayors on. As the MUA, Mount Holly, we pay a higher rate for water as opposed to...
Sewage.
Sewage, I'm sorry, as opposed to the other towns. So perhaps the meeting is in order sooner as opposed to later. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Jerry?
Yeah, okay. Eric Ferris. So this is, what do we call this? This 12-page document, the budget, the revenues?
That's the condensed version of the budget.
All right, that's what I'm looking at. I don't know if you all have the same thing.
Mhm.
Page 1 I'm looking at.
Page 1.
It's under general revenues. It's item 3. It's the miscellaneous revenue section, A, local revenues.
We can check.
Down actually, almost on the last line there, right above where it says total section, it says emergency medical services fees.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
So if I go all the way over to the right, realizing cash, it looks like the actuals were $517,664,
Mm-hmm.
and anticipated, I guess fiscal year last year was $475, and budget was $500,000.
Mhm.
I'm guessing, was that from, were the fees reimbursed by folks' insurance?
So,
That's correct. No.
folks insurance, and there's also a copay that's due to the township if we provided the sole emergency services. There's a copay deal. So, so whenever you see that increase, it's an increase in call volume to the emergency medical services team.
I'm just wondering, because obviously everyone's talking about healthcare reform, et cetera. I'm seriously concerned if we have a contingency to kind of address this particular line item. If
These are the revenues.
This is actually,
Money that,
it's actually a good thing for the
it is
town,
the revenue.
in the sense that we're,
Insurance is all of a sudden stop reimbursing, and, okay, that's what I'm saying, right? I mean,
But we are, like, I think Fred can speak, we are one of the bigger service providers in the area and answer a lot of calls. So. Granted, Medicaid patients pay less than private insurances.
but like I said, we're tinkering with health insurance, and it's down in DC, so I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen there. And then, I wanted to flip to the second page. It's number 3, it's the second one, miscellaneous revenue section F. And, I had to ask the LT this because I was concerned because there was no allocation for body armor, but there was a bulletproof vest, and I had to ask the lieutenant, is armor and bulletproof vest essentially the same thing, right? And I know that these have a lifespan and stuff, so I just want to make sure that we are providing them with the...
But it is the same, and we receive federal funding for some of it, so up to this year, we're good. I mean, it's a 5-year lifespan on bulletproof vest.
Yeah, I think that's important to know, because I was confused. What's the difference between body armor and...
Sounds like the chief wants you for a consultant.
The funding sources that we get from the feds, and I call the program different names, but it's for the body armor, yeah.
It's the federal
Slash
funding,
bulletproof vest.
that's what they mean, that's all.
All right, fair enough, good. And then, page 3, this is miscellaneous, it's number 3, miscellaneous revenue, section G. And this is the local fire bureau fees. And again, the actuals were $24,227, and the anticipated in 2017 is $47,300. That's almost 100% variance. What's-
Do you work for the state, Gary?
No.
Because they asked me the same question last week. They asked the exact same question, and they wanted proof to support that. And Chief Farnsworth and I worked on that. Going to top of my head, the local fire bureau is like a self-sustaining entity. So when they collect fees for doing fire inspections, smoke detector, they get to keep those fees. We did pass an ordinance in the fall when I got here that increased the amount of fees that we're getting, so that helps. We had $8,000 left over from last year, and as I said, self-sustaining, so it was $8,000 of that. There was smokes, we anticipated $11,000.
And the light hazards have increased as well.
What was that?
The light hazards, the number of light hazards in the township has increased. So what we've done is, fire marshal,
Oh, good.
the fire official fire marshal, office should be separate from the fire department. 2 years ago, we worked on this in fire department.
Right.
We made that transition, through auditing and stuff, we realized that there were a lot more light hazards, uses in the township than, we had thought. So through all that auditing and getting out and cleaning it all up, that's why it's also increasing. All right, so what happens with this, so everybody knows, the light hazard fees, the state collects that money, and then we get a reimbursement of 65% of what they collect comes back to us. They keep their portion, they keep the state money.
That's it, thank you.
Good eye.
Thank you, Gary.
Good questions.
Good question.
Good questions, great eye.
Thank you, Gary.
You know, well, any other, sir?
Trying to raise any other concerns other than the budget?
not yet.
Right
Just
now,
the
now.
budget.
Because I don't see those in public comment on this budget.
Mr. Smith, you're done. Any other comments on the budget? Any other comments on the budget? Any other comments on the budget? We're closed. Two things that I would like to point out in this budget that I think that just goes to good fortune and just working. One is that it should be noted that in our construction area, construction fees, we had anticipated, I believe, in 2016, and Maria, help me if I'm off from a date perspective,
It's right here, yeah.
some $200,000 roughly in that area. We realized well over $700,000 to the better of some $500,000, and that was as a direct result of the commuter project. It should also be noted that, and Gary, thank you for bringing Section 3 miscellaneous revenue up. Just this past weekend over in my development, there was a baseball tournament going on, and I had an opportunity to go over and talk to some of the folks over there. And talking to some of the folks, I thought it was our folks at first, until I realized that I really didn't recognize anyone over there, and they were from Pennsylvania. And we had a long, nice, robust conversation. The other folks were from another part of Pennsylvania, had an opportunity to talk to them, and they asked me a question. Two, actually. Where could they go out to get a good beer for later on? And two, where could they watch together hockey playoffs? Hockey playoffs that
Charlie
night.
Brown.
And I talked about Charlie Brown's, and I talked about the recovery zone. The point here is they were staying at our hotels here in West Hampton Township from an occupancy perspective. So when you look at what was anticipated from 2016 to 2017, and we're to the better by some $50,000, I think that, I salute you, your committee, Todd, when you talk about a department that is not a budgeted line item. We make it, we build it, they come. That's just yeoman's work. I tell you, whenever you go by those sports fields, and I know even in my development, we're always at capacity and just doing great work. I can tell you that even when we first talked about the concession stand, there were some concerns as to whether we ever really realized a number that was projected. Well, I can tell you over the last couple months, we've come very close to that number. Net. We've hit that number gross, but net. And, that's just yeoman's work, and that's just getting it done. So, it's not me, it's not a one thing, it's everybody. It was a little bit better this year. Last year was Shad's sacrifice. We actually had blood on the floor, and I advanced that sophomorically, if you will. This year, we started in a better position than I can remember since I've been here since 2009. So I would like to commend my colleagues from my right to my left, and open to my colleagues.
Yeah, ready to vote.
No, nothing?
You said it all. I agree.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, we've had public comment. Colleagues have had an opportunity to talk. We've moved it, we've seconded it. Roll call, please.
Lopez.
Yes.
Smith Hartman.
Yes.
Talisa.
Yes.
Wisniewski.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes. And I thank you all, and I thank our neighbors and community. Resolution 7817, award contract for demolition of 21 Blue Jay Hill Lane. This resolution awards the contract for the demolition of the dwelling and associated improvements to Winzinger, Inc. in the amount of $31,300. What say you? Not all at once.
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Second. Okay.
Discussion.
Yep.
Okay, I'll speak to it. One of the things that I would like to say is that I remember some time ago that we had decided when this property came up from a township perspective, pursuant to the Timbuktu project that we have over there on Church Street, that this property, that if it would be realized, that in some variation that we could use it either for parking or some sort of ancillary type effect that would help the Timbuktu area. As you know, that when we have Timbuktu or a very large function down there, we essentially have to hire or work in support of the school district who loans us, or we hire their bus for transport because logistically the area just cannot support the cars nor the traffic over there. So there was just some thinking there. And not to mention, it was an opportunity to purchase this property as not to leave it open for any other type of development that may come into the area. I do know that the deputy mayor would like to have a formal report from the Timbuktu Advisory Committee. We will get him that because basically what we just need to know moving forward, what our intentions, what are our plans, how do we plan to proceed. I would also say that there are some very definite ideas that we have with the Timbuktu area down there. I think for the layperson, when you hear about the community, it's a very robust narrative. However, when you go down there, it's, if you will, there's not much to really see other than understanding that it was history down there. So I know that the committee, by way of being on the committee, we wanted to look at some effects that would be museum-like when you go to other outdoor establishments, that you could either use QR codes or smartphone devices that would say, here stood, and so on and so forth. But barring some sort of low-lying fruit or some other type of economics that would come our way, right now those are just well-intentioned plans. So we will have a presentation in the future for that.
Just real quick, I'm going to abstain on voting, and the only reason I'm talking is because I just want to explain why I'm abstaining on voting. I wasn't on the committee when the property was purchased. In my short time on the committee, I think this is the second or third property or a lot of land that has been purchased with the goal of Timbuktu. I'm all in support of Timbuktu. I think it's a point of pride for the town. It could be a destination for schools, for history buffs, for those that are looking to honor and pay tribute to the men and women that have given their all to this country, that are there in buried there in part of the property there. My just concern is that I want to make sure that we have realistic goals for the use of the Timbuktu site, and that the township, we kind of rein back or really suspend from spending and investing more money until we find out what is it that we're going to do. Parking? Oh, it's on Church Street and Rancocas Road.
21
Blue Jay.
No, this is 21 Blue Street, but he's asking Timbuktu, where is it? So you're driving on Rancocas Road, you're going right up here, you're going to make a right onto Church Street, and it's right in there. It's a sacred and hallowed ground, it's beautiful, but we have been purchasing plots or lands all around it, and that's just my concern. I don't know what's the game plan, and as we've heard from residents before, state, when we were talking about the school purchase, forgetting the name, the Rancocas Friends School, the township should not be in the real estate business, if you will. So until, I hear a little bit more of something more substantive on the path forward, that's just my position right now. So I just wanted to explain that to you all.
Can that get tabled, Andre, until we got that historical?
No, I think this needs to be done.
Now, the 15th.
This building was purchased, they said, you might have missed it, we talked about it in public session. This building, this property, it's a pretty nice-sized property, was purchased in 2015, I believe. It's called the Sharps property.
Yes.
And they bought it in conjunction with Green Acres Assistance. And now Green Acres, what they do is they withhold their money, a portion of their money, until the property gets to what their open space standard. And the condition on that is the deed and title, which Al's working on. I think that's pretty much done. And then they want the building demolished. There was a fire, and it's in pretty bad repair.
Right.
There's asbestos
Single.
siding, and there's a lead around the window, and there's worst case, the bad part is that there's also an oil storage tank crawl space.
Ooh.
And we also have to decommission the well and remove the septic system. So that's why I went out for engineer quotes to get this done. And it's in bad repair, so now it's not a lot. We own it, whether you agree with that or not, and that's a liability to the township.
Okay, gotcha.
So since you clarified that, I'll rescind I'm forgetting, we're not purchasing additional land. We're addressing
We're just
an emergent issue.
that we own.
So I'll rescind my abstention when we vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Maria, for explaining that.
You're welcome.
You haven't voted yes, so you're still in order.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comment? Any other comment? Okay, moving right along, roll call.
So we need to vote.
Lopez,
Yes.
Smith-Hartman,
Yes.
Delisa,
Yes.
Wisniewski,
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes, thank you. Moving right along to ordinances, ordinance 3-2017, bond ordinance. This is the second reading. This bond ordinance is in the amount of $465,000 with a down payment of $23,250 and will provide for the purchase of various capital equipment and the completion of various capital improvements such as improvements and renovations to the township firehouse, technology upgrades to the police department, security improvements to the municipal building, and completion of a township road construction program. What say you?
Before we make a motion, I'd
sure
just like to clarify something. At the last meeting, I mentioned how we should change it from improvements and renovations to the firehouse. It's fire safety equipment
As opposed
to renovations
Yeah,
and
the
improvements.
actual, they changed the actual bond ordinance, but I probably just didn't change the wording on the agenda, I think. If you look at the ordinance, they did change it.
Yeah, we actually changed it by motion, amended motion.
They changed it, if you look on page 2,
Yep,
but then again, the figures are all wrong.
Yeah, I mean, my
Yeah.
suggestion, I don't know if this is something that can wait, but based on what's been pointed out with all the numerical errors in it, I don't know how that affects the publication of it. I don't know if those numbers appeared in the publication directly
Yes,
from
they
the ordinance.
did. They sent me everything, and I
Yeah,
just published it.
I think we'll have to have bond counsel correct those issues, and if it's something that can wait until the next meeting, pull it and wait, because we want to make sure publication was correct too. And ultimately, the ordinance, that's going to be adopted, we want to make sure that that has the correct
Correct.
numbers on it.
So I'll motion to table this.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? None, roll call.
Lopez,
Yes.
Smith Hartman,
Yes, to table it.
right, Teresa,
To table it, yes.
Wisniewski,
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes, thank you. Moving right along to correspondence, 2017-2018 municipal percentage shares for tax levies for regional school districts. We received that correspondence. B, Bordentown Sewage Authority, resolution opposing proposed pipeline project and compressor station in Chesterfield. 3, received a letter of thanks from Rutgers Global Timbuktu. Received a letter from Dr. Carolyn Brown, and essentially she's just thanking me, the committee. There was a separate letter on the separate cover to our chair, Mr. Guy Weston, and just thanking and support towards the success of Global Timbuktu Symposium, which took place on March 24th and 25th at Rutgers and in Burlington County by way of West Hampton Township and Mount Holly and I believe East Hampton by way of the Underground Railroad. There was a book that was actually put out that day, and I can tell you I had an opportunity, 2 points. One, to meet several of the esteemed professors and lecturers that came over, and I could not speak a bit of French or Mali, and I don't want to be culturally wrong or insensitive, so Mali, well, you understand the point. However, we had a great opportunity to have a conversation, and I think when things are generally universal, it's a whole lot easier when you understand what we're talking about. And the beauty of that was that it wasn't people that just looked like me, it was everybody who came and was a part of that weekend, both at Rutgers, New Brunswick, and down here. And what's interesting to note is that as part of this, it was Timbuktu, Mali, Timbuktu, New Jersey, Timbuktu, New York, and of which, of the communities that are in New Jersey, part of the Underground Railroad, there would have been 23. West Hampton on that is number 18, just after Springtown, Greenwich, and Whitesboro, which would be middle, and towns no longer in existence that was part of that was Holmantown and Mount Laurel, and Skunk Hollow, which was in Alpine. So just some notable history facts. I'll leave this upstairs on our in an open area where if any resident here want to access it, they can. Moving right along, does anyone else have any correspondence? Moving right along, dates to remember. May 7th, 2017, is a county shredding event, Bronx County Resource Recovery Complex in Florence from 9 a.m. to 1. 5/9/17 is the Fallen Officer Unity Tour ceremony, which is in West Deptford at the West Deptford Firehouse. The West Hampton Township Police Department will be present in honor of Trooper Cullen. And on Wednesday, 5/12/17 and 5/13/17, National Police Week will be in Washington, D.C. West Hampton Township Police Department will be present to honor Trooper Cullen at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. I know we have one more date.
I have more dates.
Okay.
I have more dates. Ms. Curran called me because she couldn't come to today's meeting.
Okay.
So May 6th is a ham dinner at the Rancocas Community Center from 4 to 8 p.m., which benefits the Rancocas Civic Center, the Community Center, and the Historic Society. Fire police help each year with parking. Also on May 27th, in honor of Memorial Day, the West Hampton Historical Society will be laying 2 wreaths. One will be placed at the Timbuktu Civil War Monument, and the other will be placed at the monument in the Rancocas Village section that honors the fireman, I believe his name was James Moan, who lost his life in the line of duty back in the 60s, maybe?
Mhm.
I don't know. And then it was brought to my attention that on Sunday, May 21st, the Armed Forces Freedom Ride is being held. It is a police-escorted motorcycle ride from Barb's, Harley-Davidson, and Mount Ephraim to the Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst. I posted on the website if you want more information, but it starts at 10 o'clock that day. There's a cost, but it includes a barbecued lunch and an event pin, and all the proceeds go to a Military Affairs Committee, the Joint Base, the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation of Philadelphia. And then, of course, we have the event that you mentioned earlier, Monday, May 22nd, when our police department is being recognized as the Attorney General's Award for Outstanding Community Policing of Livingston and Piscataway.
Outstanding.
Those are the dates I have.
That was very good.
I'll add them to your list.
Any only other, go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. We also have, on Wednesday, May 17th, the Burlington County Chiefs Association will be having their Fallen Officers Memorial over at the Public Safety Center. Trooper Cullen's name will be placed on that memorial that day, and also Mayor Daniels actually was asked by the Chiefs Association to be one of the guest speakers that day, so all invited to attend.
Thank you, Chief. To the extent that we can, I'm asking my colleague to join me there that day, and please share amongst your social medias and
What time is it?
10:30 a.m. If all residents and citizens that can be there that day, to just come out there that day. I know many other communities in the past have come out to support that. This one is ours. This one is real personal. We want to do all that we can to help lift up, quite frankly, the Cullen family. I could not imagine. So, Chief, I'd like to thank you and your department for just, quite frankly, standing on the front lines and filling the gap for the Cullen family. And I'm sure that I have it on authority that other departments will be providing logistical support, and our department will be en masse. Thank you.
On May 15th, aren't we going to give Maureen Malecki?
Yes.
That's very important. Maureen Malecki was voted Burlington County School Counselor of the Year.
That's going to be on
Next month's agenda, but I think we need to make sure that the school is aware of that.
And the school is giving away the award. I think I put it in your weekly report. But
May 8th, I think,
May 19th, I think, at 2:30.
Is that when?
That's when they're doing it, and they would like any committee members to.
Yes, you did tell us that. Okay. But May 15th here. So, and she's amazing, Maureen, just amazing.
Are we inviting her? Do you want me to invite her?
Yeah, I'm going to call her.
Because we're going to give it to her on that event at the school. We'll talk about it.
Okay, we'll talk. Okay.
I can tell you, I've been a part of this community since 1991, and Maureen Malecki has been a deciding difference. Several years back, we lost an 8th grader and 2 of our RV students on July 4th in a motor vehicle accident, and that was just one particular instance where she was the difference in the world for an entire community, and particularly on one side. As that particular night, I had to go out there and identify two of our babies, one who died that night and one who died a week later. So she is just someone from a school counselor's perspective that is just so progressive and ahead of the curve, almost anticipating, you need to talk to me today, or I need a hug from you. And if you go over to the school, whether it was at Holly Hills Elementary School or the West Hampton Middle School, she is the epitome of professionalism in class and during Teacher Appreciation Week.
In addition, she's involved with the canines, right?
Yes.
I mean, so she doesn't limit herself just to school activity. She extends herself throughout the entire community. So she really deserves a good acclamation, I think.
Absolutely. Do we have any other dates?
Mr. Mayor, this Sunday, or Saturday, May 6th, common science at
Right.
College, North County for special needs children. It's going to be available at police departments, fire departments, public works, just an environment for children with special needs to come and interact in a secure area. And then the second thing is the night of May 17th, the fire service does the same memorial service as the police chiefs do at night for fire and EMS, as well as at 7 p.m. at the same location at Center for Communications.
Absolutely.
I want to go to that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any other?
That's it.
Okay, moving right along. At this time, I would like to open the meeting to the public for comment.
Both eyes on you.
So I have to stand there, or can I stand here?
Should stand there.
Nobody's not here? I'm just here because I spent a lot of time doing a lot of research.
Your name?
Sir, can you give your name?
Henry Court, if you all know me, except for Mr. Wisniewski, I don't get that name. I've done a lot of research, homework, reading, letter writing unsuccessfully, and really, just here to articulate I'm sad and depressed over, disappointed with our township officials, current and former, failure of anybody in our town to try to articulate to me why virtue of building this 1 million square feet is in our interest. I'd love to hear it. And nobody, I've tried repeatedly, and all I get is, oh, it's a good thing, it's a good thing. I'd like to see some numbers to back up why it's a good thing and why you support it. I just, I need to see it. We know non-profit hospitals don't pay taxes like normal private-paying hospitals, but that doesn't right. I'm sad to learn that nobody in the township has had the sense of courage to ask Virtua to stand up and be the good neighbor that they're boasting that they want to be, and see if they can preserve about 5 acres of open farmstead, and leave it and preserve it, and it will be there forever, because, it just seems like a good thing. What's the harm in asking? I've suggested it before, but everybody's afraid to even approach the situation. It's like, you try. They say no. Well, at least you can say you try. Haven't seen any evidence of that. But, for those that don't know, it's listed as eligible under 2 criteria to be eligible for the state and national register of historic places. So, it's always been ever out there, and I hate to see it get bulldozed. I'm also sad that the town never had the sense or courage to go and try to recommend preserving this site with the county and state and the green acres, however, but, farmland, conservation, I don't know, but, talk about a nice piece of property to preserve, 110 acres or that would be an awesome thing to do, but nobody even tried, and that's kind of, I don't get it. I mean, that's a perfect thing. I'm really disappointed that the township has a total lack of understanding of traffic impacts that are going to go down if this gets built to the full build out. The 110 acres of blacktop ability generates a lot of cars. We've been to Virtua in Northeast. It's not building, it's parking lot. And it's like, what really bothers me is the Land Development Board and Township Committee, had in your own criteria the requirement that the applicant for his general development plan submit traffic analysis and projections that identify all off-site litigation that would be necessary to improve the impacts that are anticipated to see. If it fails today, it's going to fail a lot worse in the future. And I have no evidence that the township
have as big of a vested interest in them being taken care of properly as anybody else, more so than East Hampton, Willingboro, or anybody else, because it's in our own community and there are roads as well. So my point is, I've read and heard people say that discussions have begun with Virtua and the county and trying to figure out traffic mitigation and all that. Where you guys are going at is, it's so important that you have your engineer and your planner represented at every meeting between Virtua and the county, so nothing gets agreed to and goes down without your knowledge. You have to be the most vocal, active participant to make sure we don't get hosed at the end. I mean, how much harder is that to understand? I mean, it just makes too much sense. And that's why you have engineers and planners. You can come to us a meeting, I want to see the minutes, I want to see everything, I want to know what's going on at that level. Don't just sit there and like, I don't want to know about it.
Mr. Davis,
Don't trust the county is going to do an adequate job, okay? I mean, it just reeks of, politics, okay? The higher level than what's in the township, okay? They've failed to do what I think is the right thing to mitigate other development problems in other areas of the county. But, you can't just let it slide through and assume that they're going to do the right thing, okay? It can only blow up at the end. If you're not there involved, then you don't have a voice. And then they're just going to ramp down roads and everybody's going to be upset and it's going to be a mess, okay? Allowing a person to build anything without the improvements being in place before any opening of any of the facilities is a mistake. You're going to build it, tear everything up, and then go out and tear up all the roads up. Do the improvements that are necessary. It requires it right away, and it requires major widening of intersections. Any idea of letting them get out of Dodge, not widening the turnpike over Vancouver and Irish/Wood Lane is a grave mistake, okay? There are problems today, and they're going to blow up really bad in the future. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
All these concerns, did anybody document that? And are they going to be addressed?
I just wrote down notes and I have a response. I think I was going to save my response for the closing comments so I can give everybody a maximum amount of talk. And then once everybody has expressed themselves, I'm happy to address many, if not most, of the concerns Mr. Davies.
And also, you guys a year ago implied that your solicitor would be more than happy to discuss my issues and concerns. I said to him over the phone, we can't talk anything until you've read at least my 3 or 4 letters that have written to you, Mayor, and the former Mayor. And as soon as he read my letters, he doesn't answer the phone and he doesn't want to engage in conversation. I wonder why that would be. And the other question I have, who's this gentleman over here on your right? I don't know who that is. I'm with Remington Emergent Engineers. Okay. I'm an engineer. Okay. Have you been at any of the meetings with the county talking about virtual? I am actually not familiar with that project. I just started with them a few weeks ago and it's never gone on to date. Okay. It's a virtual project. Correct.
Smith, you have a question? Any other public comment? Ms. Berkeley?
Just to let you know, talked about James Moe, before we had the Holly Hills or the Torrance Field firehouse. There was a firehouse in Rancocas that served West Hampton. We were much smaller back then, back in 1924. James Moe was a very young man in town. He was a volunteer fireman. And unfortunately...
Pardon me, real quick, Mr. Davies. I'm going to answer your comments and concerns. I hate for you to go when I'm going to address your concerns. Just right after the open.
One time we had a fire and his ladder unfortunately touched some live wires and he was electrocuted. And it was a very sad day because his family had lived in town for a long time. And so there is a memorial outside the community center, which is the old firehouse. So as we remember those that have lost their life, I would appreciate if we could also keep this young man in our memories.
Okay.
It just happened when he was very young.
Do we have a date on when that happened?
I can go look and
Okay.
Ms. Janet Curran said I should definitely stop by and see that memorial. That's really interesting to read.
Craig
Yeah,
has something to say.
I'll find out.
Every year, the memorial ceremony that takes place at night,
May 17th.
there is an honor that as well. All firefighters in the county are honored. Traditionally, what we do is we create a fire helmet and put it next to the memorial that does have his name on it. So his name is on the memorial. All firefighters and police officers in the county. Right, as far back as record keeping goes. So his name is on the memorial in the county. It'll be
May 17th, right, Craig? Yep.
I can see how it's easy to forget because it's not an active firehouse. So,
But they didn't forget it.
To follow up on what I said about the school, it hit me as we were talking, the 1.2 billion that's our assessed value is not the assessed value for collecting school taxes because a lot of that is private. So when an RV is taking that in consideration, how much it's charging us, they shouldn't be charging us by assessed value that goes towards their taxes. Because if $500 million is pilot and they're not, then that rest of the money that they say West Hampton owes now goes to the residents
It's inflated.
because they're not including or taking away the amount that's pilot that does not go to the school.
Yep.
That's a good point.
Can we keep that on the radar for further discussion?
For investigation.
Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? So, in the interest of, I guess, justice, I am going to let the deputy mayor speak to Mr. Davies' concerns
Back in.
when he comes back in.
Tell him to come back in.
Mr. Davies?
We're ready.
The deputy mayor is going to speak to some of your concerns. But before he does, I would like to just say, and I probably should just advance this out of an abundance of caution, that no sitting township committee member has spoken or has, if you will, acknowledged or advanced anything formally or officially from a municipal perspective. Anything that has been said, and there's been much ink written recently on the virtual project, has been advanced from a personal perspective. I've spoken to it personally from at least 3 different point of personal purviews, if you will, or introspections, that's a better word. So I just wanted to put that on the record that this body has not adjudicated, vetted, looked at, nor has the Land Development Board. And the deputy mayor will speak to some of the things more specifically.
Do you believe we should preserve the open farmstead? Or do you think we should bulldoze?
So
go ahead. No, go ahead. Do you want that from me? I personally like that nothing beats an effort but a try, and ask them if I said I personally believe that I like that the fact that you had advanced that perhaps we could ask Virtua if they would be willing to preserve at least 5 acres, if possible. Yeah.
It has happened, if I can. I just want to give you some context first before I go into the details. I got almost all the bullet points of the issues you raised. First and foremost, three out of 5 committee members that are sitting on this dais right now were not sitting on the dais when all of these decisions were made by the previous Land Development Board. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then further, I don't know if you were at the Land Development Board meeting when there was that hearing discussing the virtual proposal.
That was around Labor Day weekend.
It was not.
Okay.
So much questions.
It was
So-
not. It was packed.
It was packed, so I want to discuss,
Only.
I want to discuss my testimony on that night. Maybe some residents that are here do recall. I wasn't an elected official at the time, I was just a resident. Well, if you read it all, you would know that I spoke that night and I requested a pre and post traffic study assessment from Virtua. And you would also know, if you continue to read those minutes, that I asked what would be the true economic impact and the benefits for West Hampton Township for the virtual project. I also requested a pre and post economic study of what was done in Virtua Voorhees. And if that can or will be comparable to what is expected to be done here in West Hampton Township, since elected, I've also followed up with her. I've received a response from the governmental affairs representative in Virtua. Also, I followed up when I was an elected official and sworn in on January. The governmental affairs official provided me with a post-economic impact study that was done in Virtua, but not a pre. So I have really nothing to compare it to, a pre and a post. But I received a post-construction economic impact, meaning how many new offices were created that are taxable or rateable, how many new restaurants were created around that were rateable. And there was a significant amount of economic development in Virtua. So I just want to clarify. I have no other documentation but what was given to me. But I just want to be clear. I wasn't on the committee at the time, but I did raise, and I, in fact, was probably one of the only few residents that night that requested studies, pre and post, and I followed up once I was elected. Now, with regards to the 5 acres that are in question, we have requested, and Maureen Smith-Hartman has also even visited with some of the farm owners to see if a swap can be achieved, swapping the Virtua site location to something that's closer to the turnpike, which would be less of an inconvenience to residents. The response that we received at the time from both another farm owner who would have to be involved in the swap was that farm owner had zero interest in relinquishing the land. Maureen spent a significant amount of time trying to convince the large impact, positive impact for residents that family would be doing by agreeing to the swap. And we even discussed preserving that farm and creating a permanent memorial dedicated to the family and the farm history of the swap, and it was still declined. So as far as myself, and I can freely speak to for Committeewoman Smith-Hartman, not only did we do this via email and phone call, Maureen went personally to the farm owner's home to try to convince. So that's on your 5 acre.
Oh, great, but like now we even wrote a letter to Virtua to say, hey, by the way, we think you can reconfigure your site to save this historic site.
What I just told you is we've requested more than reconfiguring. We've requested.
We've done it with the town. They can't go to the farmer, buy the land and sell it to the other guy or sell it to whoever he wants.
Okay, so I'll just end with this because I've addressed most of or all of the bullet points you've brought up. We need to understand, and the solicitor can clarify this, and to the extent the engineer has experience in this, what happened with Virtua, number one, they have not been allowed to build anything. They can't build anything. They still need to appear before a land development board. What they received was a concept approval, right? Is that
General development plan.
Pardon?
General development plan approval.
That's all it was.
Explain it, please.
Yeah, and I have plenty of time. Yeah, so they've got a general development approval. Abe, you kind of referred to it as a concept approval. It's a bit more than that. What they do is they present a concept for what it is they want to develop. It's a vested right that they have for 10, sometimes 20 years. They now then need to come in with compartments of that development for actual land use board approval. So they'll come in for site plan approval. When that happens, I don't know. It seems like it's getting closer and closer now from what we're hearing, but it could be a decade from now, it could be this year, it could be next year, but they will have to come to the site plan for site plan approval. As of today, they cannot do anything. They can't get building permits because they don't have the necessary approval. So it will be before the board.
Now, there was also medical overlay that was approved there, right, on that site?
Correct.
And what's the process for medical overlay?
Process, well, it's essentially an overlay, is essentially a rezoning of the property that allows a medical use.
So that goes to the LDB first? Does that go to the committee?
Ultimately, yes.
So it's already happened?
Yeah.
So, but the point of I'm bringing that up to you is, it was done, I wasn't on this body to change this, and so it's done. The medical overlay, I read your letter, and we requested the solicitor respond in detail, which he did. And we all received a copy, and it was a detail. Oh, no. I only can speak for, since I've been on, you sent me a letter, I read it, and we requested. So I only can speak, I can't speak for those.
You're reading the history of what transpired in the Land Development Board and sweeping the GDP under the rug. With an application, the
I'll conclude with saying this, Mr. Davies. I share your frustration and your concern. The reason being, if you look at the township's, not master plan, our vision statement, that land there is supposed to be the town center.
Right.
All right?
And you look at their plan and their proposal in detail, they're not providing that for you.
No,
They're building right out the
it's going to be a hospital now. So that,
application, and they do state a lot of that.
if I were,
There are not 2 points of access, one on Woodland and one on 541.
so the two final points that I'm trying to impress upon you, if I were, I would have been a vote against it. I would have said no, because that was envisioned for the town center. That's number one. Number two, the point I think the solicitor was trying to bring, or I was trying to get through the solicitor, is that a medical overlay zone has passed. That zone is now zoned for medical overlay. Number two, they received a general plan approval. Mr. Solicitor, once a developer receives a general plan approval, and they do not deviate from what was originally proposed, it's done as far as what was generally approved.
If their engineered site plan is consistent with the general development plan, yeah, for the most part, the land use board would have to approve it, unless there was some overriding health and safety issue that came along with what was presented.
So that's the reason why no.
Okay. So I asked Chairman Advocate on that development. So what is the only solution to fixing 541 in Woodland, if it fails today? The only solution were to build a reverse jug handle and acquire a liquor store or Dunkin' Donuts or, a pharmacy. He said, we wouldn't approve it. And I said, but you approved it, and you didn't have the proper traffic studies and projections to put it, that your criteria say you deserve. So you're approving something you don't know. And to approve them to build anything without improvements in price, it's a grave mistake.
Just one more thing, Mr. Mayor. You made a good point that this body should act on moving forward. You mentioned it. Moving forward, I do agree with Mr. Davies. We're transitioning from a debate on whether we should have this or not because the plans are approved. Wait, sir, let me finish. Sir. Your time is up. I just want to finish. What we need to do moving forward as a governing body and as a committeeman, this is my responsibility and this is what I'm going to be doing. We need to monitor every phase of this project like a hawk. And I agree with you, the township engineer, the township planner should be intimately involved in every phase of this project. The township should have no surprises with regards to this. We may even, or should possibly consider, and we can discuss this as a committee, should we have someone specially just for this? Because this is a unique project. All right, so this is something that we should discuss. So I want to thank you for bringing that forward to tonight.
Okay. We're done? We're done? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Davies, for bringing those questions up. Moving right along, is there any other public comment? I'm going to close public comment. Moving right along, department heads. Chiefs? Anything? OEM? No? LT? Fire marshal?
2 points, actually.
Yes, sir.
Can you please stand?
Absolutely. Our order of law, we got it August 31st, 1968. So you were looking for a date.
Oh, thank you.
August 31st, 68. Second, I had a proud employee moment today, actually. Got to watch the fire chief take care of business today, handling a rather large call. We took about 50 people.
The hazmat?
Pretty much every ambulance in Rowan County here, so that's all I have.
Good job.
Yeah, I would like to extend,
Right.
yeah.
I got
So
it.
embarrassed.
Thank you all that responded.
Craig, what did happen?
A student discharged a fire extinguisher in the school, right around the same time when children were moving from classroom to classroom. Due to their special needs, it was difficult to determine if they were really injured or not. So the decision was made that we go. So we ended up transporting 48 total. We We used 15 ambulances, 2 buses, and it took us about an hour and 10 minutes from start to finish.
That's pretty good.
So, yeah,
Thanks, Craig. Craig, are you going to post that on your Facebook page?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to post that on your Facebook page?
He did.
It is there? Okay. Yeah, because I saw that.
We just
Okay.
didn't want to say anything about that being the school or special services.
It's already said. It's already out there.
Yeah,
It's
you
already out
know,
there.
I was actually
It's
up
already
in the
out there.
office when it happened, and usually you hear one siren going
Yeah,
by,
but-
2 sirens going by, and then it became a cavalcade of sirens, and I'm like, what's going on? And that's when we got the notice shortly after that. So thanks all for your diligent hard work. Mr. Gibson? No? Maria? Marion?
No, I don't have anything.
Anything? Sam? Mr. Solicitor? Engineer? Anything?
Well, the other thing I want to say is, short sales are leaving West Hampton. A lot of them are getting sold. So I think our short sale problem and foreclosure problem is beginning to come to an end, unless more crop up. So just wanted to mention that. I think it should make everybody happy.
Thank God, yeah.
I guess not.
Oh, yes.
You don't have to be happy. I'm happy.
I'm happy to.
Okay,
I am
thank you,
happy
Dave.
to. Good stuff. Because that just means that West Hampton recovered.
It just means I had 2 settlements.
That's what that means?
I'm happy.
Good stuff. Okay.
As usual, I just want to thank the department heads and Fire Marshal. Keep up the good work. Thank everybody for coming out. And that's it.
Yeah, you can say.
Yeah, oh yes, I do, Maureen. Now, on a happy note, I recently joined a shift at the firehouse for a delicious, delicious meal. I wish I could have taken some home with me, and also for good company and a ride-along. And I have to tell you, we have wonderful, wonderful firefighters, fire police, EMTs. I mean, they are caring. There were 2 individuals that it wasn't their shift, but they were there. I mean, they just gravitate to the firehouse, and,
That's so nice.
you know, just thank you so much for the meal, the company, just for your service, and, you know, just for caring and protecting the residents. So, you know, my kudos to everyone. The police, too, you're wonderful, but I didn't go on a ride-along.
And you don't feed them.
And you don't feed me.
Put that in the budget next year.
But I just had to, you know, say thank you for letting me come over.
Outstanding. That's it?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
I just once again want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank, I think tonight was a beautiful example of how residents can do their part to make sure we're serving you all well. I'm forgetting the gentleman's name who's been here faithfully. Really great work tonight.
Yes.
And
Very.
keep it going. Even Mr. Smith here earlier bringing his concerns and making his comments, and everybody doing so in a respectful manner. Others take different approaches on how they express themselves. We even thank Mr. Davies through his expression. You know, I was able to hear a potential solution on how we can closely monitor what's going on there. So there was some good out of that, believe it or not. And then I just want to end with saying, Mrs. Jackson's husband, she's been putting comments on Facebook every time we see her, asking for prayers for her husband. And I don't know how many of you guys saw the video today of her children in Holly Hills and her daughter, I believe, in RV, welcome home their dad. So we want to welcome Mr. Calvin Jackson home to West Hampton Township from the armed services he served, and he's back home today. So on behalf of West Hampton Township, I think we owe him a nice welcome home. Welcome home to Calvin Jackson, if the family's listening. We're really proud, and I think we should also do something about him as well.
I agree.
That's all.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, DM. He just segued and just took my my thunder, on
So say goodnight.
my neighbor, right across the street from me. No, but nevertheless, Technical Sergeant Calvin Jackson, just came back from overseas, had an opportunity to talk to Angela, last week, and I've been in touch with Congressman, MacArthur's office and, Mr. Bob Smite, who arranges a lot of the Veteran Affairs activities. So as soon as I have an opportunity to talk back with Angela, I talked with Calvin just this afternoon. We're going to work with Patriot Riders, the Yellow Ribbon Club, and to the extent we can have police and fire and elements of this Township Committee to join us and welcoming back one of our own. I'm proud, from a distinction purposes, of that Technical Sergeant Calvin Jackson served in the United States Air Force, and I remember so many years ago when we would have one of our very own who's sitting here tonight, and we welcomed him back very similarly. And thank you, sir, for your continued service to this nation. The only other thing that was not mentioned from an infrastructure perspective that this budget allows for, and perhaps we'll talk about it in the future, is our infrastructure, and it addresses the roads in our community from a priority perspective. For the first time, and maybe from a historical perspective, we had a chance to do an inventory of our roads, and by way of priority to look at them, this budget will allow for at least one or two projects towards that. Other than that, I'm done. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Are we going to?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. You can all go home. But we're actually going to go into Resolution 5-1-17 to adjourn into executive session.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
If anybody feels inclined